IT Nation Wise Up, a podcast that skips the sales pitch and brings you real insights and strategies to help your business. We're your hosts, Matt Topper
and Vicky Bruns.
And we're thrilled to have you join us.
This is not your typical podcast. Our goal is to ensure that we are bringing IT community experts more accessible to you by highlighting their experiences so we can learn and grow together. So if you're looking to stay ahead in the ever-evolving tech landscape, stick around as we dive into the topics that matter to you most.
Before we get started, just a quick reminder to like and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Now let's dig in. So this is the first kickoff episode, right? The initial IT Nation Wise Up broadcast. And we have a very special guest to get us started. Gregg, I know you, Vicky knows you, not everyone else does. Do you want to do an intro?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. This is quite an achievement, being the first guest on the podcast. And for those of you who do know me or don't know me, Gregg Lalle, I'm the former SVP for international sales. And for us in the ConnectWise world, it meant our offices out of London, serving our EMEA theater of operation, as well as Sydney for our APAC operation. So that was my prior job the past 12 years. As of April 1 this year, I am proud and happy to say, and honored really, to now be the SVP and GM of the IT Nation.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you on. And I wore my IT Nation branded shirt from IT Nation Connect last year just to celebrate this special moment in time. So thanks for joining us, Gregg. Point. Yeah. Not always, but today, yes. Awesome. So Gregg, tell us a little bit about what the essence of this podcast means to you personally. And we also kind of want to hear, what are your expectations of what we can hopefully deliver? No pressure, Matt, to the IT Nation community.
Yeah, it's a great question, a great leadoff question. And that is, what's new, right? There's so much content out there and so many podcasts and so many, I like to think of it, physically, there's so many doors that you can open up and go in. Why this one? What's kind of unique about it? And, as I've kind of stepped into this role, I see the industry leading content that we continue to produce, and we do so in pieces and pockets of the community. And it's really about expanding that information and that communication, that dialogue for all. So very much what you said in the intro, it's about rising, the rising tide lifts all boats, and kind of starting with a new beginning, engagement and openness and fair play. The people that want to come on, this is an open forum for people that have something to say and share, and for the benefit of all of our community. So it's the brightest minds. If you look at kind of the charter, we want the brightest minds of people to have stage, no politics, no antics, really just kind of teaching the community. And really it is for all personas, all operational maturity levels, all modes. There'll be different pieces that will focus on, I think, different, facets of those components, but it's really across the universe to have something kind of new and exciting to talk about every time we hit the record button.
Yeah. You mentioned that there's a lot of content out there in the community, and I would almost relate it to like content sprawl. You know how we talk about like solution sprawl? It's kind of hard to know where to go, I think, sometimes when it comes to finding advice and thought leaders in the space. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. And so do you think that maybe this is an opportunity for us to be able to kind of consolidate and bring all of this content to the community in a way that's a little bit more cohesive and thoughtful, maybe?
Well, look, I think it's one of the many mechanisms that we can leverage. If you think about the podcast itself, it's a piece of all of the content we produce, articles through SLI and compensation reports. We have individual, leadership, different pieces that come out through Evolve. So all the properties, they produce all of this really great material. So the podcast will highlight some of the things, again, in our local communities, but people that are bringing things to us as well to share that we don't even know about. And then the job of the IT Nation, in my estimation, is to then compile that. I use more the analogy, again, very visual kind of learner perception of like stars in the sky. If you look up in the sky, you wouldn't know what to make of it. You're the first person to look up and kind of see stars. But if someone kind of told you, hey, there's Orion the Hunter and there's the 3 stars make the belt, and that's how you put that together, that's what's really needed. I think there's information is abundant all over the place. It's how is it compiled, consolidated into the individual, say MSP that's listening right now on how to meet them where they're at and provide that level of information. It could be a vendor where they're at and how they reach the community in a different way, right? There can be all kinds of different ways or different thoughts that can go into kind of this journey and these stepping stones. So we're not shy of shortage of content in the arena. So I don't want to say it's just for the production of content. It's about being meaningful and also then compiling it and making sure that people can make sense of it and how it can impact the business.
Traditionally, when you think IT Nation, you think ConnectWise. And one of the goals of this podcast is to let everyone in the industry come in, everyone contribute, anyone who has something of value to give them exposure. Is that correct, Gregg? What's the goal overall with that?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. Again, just even in the intro, it's for anybody who has engagement, right? Anyone with something that the charter is really, again, the best minds of the industry. So yeah, I wouldn't disagree that traditionally, ConnectWise and IT Nation has been linked at the hip, and ConnectWise always will have a major part in the IT Nation. ConnectWise has always been a big supporter of the community and driver in the institution that has become the IT Nation. But we're also opening it up and making sure that for the 100,000 TSPs in North America, 400,000 globally, all of this education, all of these things the IT Nation, the properties do, whether it be industry events, whether it be evolved through our peer coaching, mentoring, and accountability, to even the ecosystem and some of the things we produce, it's for the greater good of the community. So it's not limited necessarily to one piece or one vendor. It's really just a property of the institution. And that's really kind of what we want to drive home.
I like that. I'm going back to your constellation thought stream of, how we're like almost the astrology guides to the MSP galaxy, maybe. I don't know. The marketing part of my brain is starting to turn.
Are we the map? Do we project on the ceiling for the guide to the TSP?
Maybe. I think there's a lot of cool things that we can do with this, Gregg.
So look, I think the IT Nation, though, is, again, we start talking about even coming up at Secure. We're starting with what we're calling the traveler's journey, right? It's actually to start mapping out that guide to the universe. We see it very similar, Vicky, to what you said, as far as there's all of this stuff and all of these things all over the place. But if we have enough success of enough MSPs and enough vendors being successful, by the way, in this ecosystem, being born, growing, and exiting, and even being acquired, vendors or MSPs, how do we compartmentalize all that goodness? How do we put it in a pathway and make it palatable in pieces? Again, regardless of the mode you're in, what kind of development and mindset you're thinking of the business, or who your persona is inside the institution, there's absolutely something for everybody.
Yeah. Well, think about it, right? There's the business modes that Arlen Sorensen and team created. There's also all of these cybersecurity frameworks that Matt and I know you're very familiar with. There are, when you think about AI and the conversation that's happening around AI, there's almost like this very similar journey that MSPs are going on to figure out how to accomplish that path to maturity. And so when you think about all of these frameworks and all of these different ways, right, to grow the business or exit the business, there's a lot out there. And so it's almost like you're connecting the dots between all of those really impactful conversations that are happening across the MSP community, and doing it in a way that's like tangible, where people can actually understand like what is my own journey to success, right? And what does that look like?
So
I mean, think about this. Yeah, sorry, go ahead,
Gregg.
No, I just saying, think about the sheer volume when you talk about, AI. It's in its infancy. There's no way you can't have a journey because it doesn't exist. We're building the plane as it's flying, or the car, whatever analogy you want to use. This is all under construction, but yet it's being propelled and pushed into the business. So this is what the need and velocity of information, of intelligence, of guidance from people who are at the forefront and getting it right is really important at this point in time. And I would say no more important. We talk about combining the security component as well. You're talking about combining security and AI being a foundational layer to any business, and it's a must-have. It's not a nice to have. two emerging technologies in the MSP space over the last 3 years, 4 years, you'd argue for advanced security and AI in the last year are being forced together.
Agreed. The point I was going to make is that we're talking about all these different frameworks and all these different guides and roadmaps. And I just want to make sure that we're clear that what we're not doing is being extremely prescriptive on everyone listening. This is what you're supposed to do. This is where you have to go. What we're doing is showing you the map and a potential path. But we're not saying do this or go this exact way or take these exact steps. Somebody might come in and say what worked for them. That might not be what works for every listener, right? Everyone watching. We just want to show and get exposure to some of the different techniques out there, some of the different tactics out there, and let everyone make their own path, their own journey.
And learn from
I
each
think
other.
that's the brilliance of being in, like, again, kind of having the IT Nation being open. And what we keep expressing over and over again is that there is no one right way, right? Again, I'm 53. I grew up under command and control in my household, right? You were told to do something or else. It was one way to do it, my way, the highway, or get out, right? That stuff doesn't fly that well anymore. And so everything has to be co-authored because there's a lot of smart people that came across with new ways to parent and better ways. And you had to change and you had to morph over the years. And again, it wasn't one person that came out with a book that said, here's the new parental ruling. It happens over time. But it has to have a community that lives and breathes and it can freely exchange ideas, can welcome them in. And there is no one right way, right? We start with that basis that there isn't only one way to do something. There's several ways to get things done. And a lot of people have a lot of good ideas, which, like I said, this is for me, the differentiator. When we look across all of the people that we engage with, that we touch, that we socialize with, coming in and saying, this is an open space to have a chat.
Yeah. It's interesting because the IT Nation is really kind of a catch-all phrase for so many things that exist today. So perfect example would be all of the IT Nation conferences, but there's going to be some evolution in the future of it being much more than that. What else is it, Gregg? When you think about the IT Nation, what would you say is like something that to look for and anticipate? I know we've talked about, right, like breaking down the barriers and making it a place for everybody to come and feel comfortable growing and sharing, right? But is there anything else that you would mention there, or?
Well, I think you kind of have to divide up a little bit about what I call the properties themselves. And so you have the industry experiences that people think about. No, we talk about Connect in November, kind of that big tent, everybody comes, thought leadership. What's the purpose, the desire for that experience, right? Secure that we have coming up in another 5 weeks from now, from when we're recording this, focused around the whole piece of threat management, Automation Nation, obviously around AI development and that property. So we have individual pieces as well as Grow, which we're teaching people how to kind of unlock the IT evaluations, owners to kind of get together and listen to private equity, listen to brokers out there, listen to accountants, to listen to lawyers, how to structure the business now, what to think about now so that you potentially can grow the business and exit in the next 5 to 10 years, because that's how long you need to prepare. So having the foresight to look at the size of the community, the topics that matter, and create industry experiences is one piece of it. Then there's a real intimate part of the peer groups, and that is, creating that 100 to 300 level content about being a better business operator, what we call operational level maturity, and actually increasing that intelligence so that you can scale the business, so that you can hire your replacements and staff up so that you can actually, again, scale and grow. And so a lot of that is involved into the peer groups, but the pieces that are different there is that there's ability, there's intimacy that holds everyone to task about what good looks like, driving towards higher ground to get better. And that's really the cool part about the peer groups. And then there's also the share event. So bringing those back where we're taking our properties on the road in more kind of geographic territories, whether it be North America, whether it be EMEA, whether it be APAC. And that's just getting out back into the community, meeting our MSPs, our vendors, where they live more frequently, and doing that on a more regular cadence. So pushing all that out while we partner, again, with more and more ISVs, more vendor partners that want to be part of this experience, that see this gravitational pull. So it's really multifaceted, Vicky. I guess it's the industry, it's the peer groups with accountability, it's the share events in your local neighborhood, and obviously then the ecosystem and the relationships we have with our vendor partners. Also who bring knowledge, who bring their own insights, their own keys and ways to help MSPs develop their business.
So let me be the voice of the MSP again. When I hear this, my spidey sense goes up. I start thinking, man, this all sounds good. This sounds great, except I feel like I'm going to walk into a peer group or into an event or into some kind of coaching session and hear nothing but you should buy more stuff or buy more of our products, right? Can you dissuade that concern for me or for anyone listening who thinks that if they start getting involved in IT Nation, that it's really just a call to do more with us?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt as part of the program, and we'll call it that, in some of these properties that has a piece of sponsorship where people feel like they can contribute, they have something of offer, and they could potentially, again, talk about that product. We're asking them to come forward with the thought leadership, to lead with that, lead with the problem, lead with the complexity, lead with the industry. Why is something hard to solve? Where are the avenues for solutions? And then ultimately get to potentially, again, if somebody has something or a position, we have vendor booths, we have things that are actually integrated into the shows. And one of the top reasons people come to these shows on the industry level is because they want to see what's new out there in the marketplace. So I think it's a fine line between being exposed to the latest, greatest, want to know of what's out there and how products are changing and morphing, getting a dose of that, and not getting blasted with it when you step in a room with 35 minutes of product and new architecture over somebody's whatever new product, and you're not really learning anything. So again, if we look at the institution of IT Nation, it's under the kind of what we call the go-giver philosophy, and that's give more than you take. Come with education, come with a work product, something you can share, help people out. It opens the door to a world of opportunity. So I would say that there's a mix of it, Matt. It's not necessarily mutually exclusive where you can say you'll do one or the other, because again, partners want that, and they've made it very clear through all of our surveys that we've done that that's an important part of the event that we do.
The Solutions Pavilion, because they want to see what's new and what's out there. But I know, so Matt's approaching this from the MSP mindset. I'm approaching it from the vendor mindset because of the vendor partnerships that I've helped to manage through the years at ConnectWise. And I feel like one of the things that vendors say, right, when they come into our events is they say, hey, how can I make sure that I'm making the most impact? And I think what you just described, Gregg, is really, you're trying to find ways to set the vendors up for success with the people that are there in attendance, right?
Yeah, look, I think the 14 years I did spend under the ConnectWise umbrella has taught me a bit in the sales leadership roles I've had, multiple in North America, as well as obviously predominantly overseas. But it does allow you to bridge that gap in starting communities, joining communities, figuring out where the mutual win is. And I've seen, again, just victims of it where, again, we come in and we want to jump right to selling. And it kind of, as Matt alluded to from the MSP side or the vendor side, you think you're getting your ROI, your message across, and you're really not. You're walking in the room and they're going, that is not what I wanted when you're on stage. So really, I think there's an obligation. We are kicking off vendor peer groups that we have already in place, but also bringing back the experience of education for those that don't know the industry. If we're welcoming in new ISVs into the community, do they understand the MSP community? Do they understand how to connect? Do they understand, again, what it's like to be an owner and wear those multiple hats and how to connect and what things might resonate? So it's making sure we have an obligation, again, I think, to help the vendor community ensure, certainly the people that have been around forever, they understand. But for a lot of folks coming in, especially when it's no secret about the world of, the need to drive revenue higher, everyone jumps right to, let me pitch product, let me sell you something. And that's not at all, I couldn't be more further from the truth, what our partners are asking for in order to form a relationship.
You said it right there, relationship, right? Of course, there's going to be a sales component. That's part of meeting with the vendor, right? You're not meeting with them for any other reason. But if you can do that while providing me real education that's applicable, whether if there's ultimately a deal made or not, man, I'll appreciate that even if I don't buy anything.
Yeah. Oh, I have a question about the kind of the format of how these events have been run in the past, right, for IT Nation. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there we know because we have those button jars where you pick how many years you've been coming to our events. And there are a lot of partners, a lot of MSPs that are, I wouldn't say braggadocious, but I mean, kind of, I would be too, right? If it was my 10th or 15th IT Nation Connect event. So can you tell us a little bit about the format? Do you see that changing at all this year, or anything new that you're thinking of that maybe we haven't done in the past that MSPs would be keen to look out for?
Look, the people that have been coming for a long time know that what it's all about. I think it's interesting to me to find out that sometimes, again, we've been around so long that there's still people that have no idea what the IT Nation represents. And that's really first and foremost. We want to make sure we're getting the message across. This obviously being part of it. And as we broadcast more and connect with other communities, that people know and understand that it is a safe place to come. And Matt kind of talked about this before as well. Like, again, we have different people using different software that are experiencing good results inside the community because it's industry centric. So kind of putting the product aside a bit more, I think that's what you may see, at least initially, and also just the welcoming nature and the engagement. And I hope our other vendors and our partners listening to this will come with that same spirit. That's what the expectation is going to be. So really, just more engagement, more focus on work products and things that partners can leave with, working plans, tangible ideas. When you come to these events, you want to go home with something that, you come, you travel, you take 2-3 days out of the office. And a lot of people, again, if you come from overseas, for example, I mean, it's a long time to be out of an office. So, you've got to have to go home with something tangible that's really going to change and modify the business. So I think we've done it well. At times, for me, it's more consistency and cadence. Make sure we do this. It's rinsable, repeatable, whether we do it on the stage at Connect in November or at a share event in Bristol, in the UK next spring. That you get the same type of experience that is supported by both the MSP community and vendor community alike.
I like it. I got to tell you, one of my favorite memories so far of going to IT Nation events was Jesse Cole's keynote, the owner of the Savannah Bananas. To your point, Greg, it was so interesting watching everybody leave that keynote because you could see the wheels turning and people saying, I'm going to bring some of these great ideas back to my business. Like I think there was, he mentioned in the Q&A part of the session, a lot of the IT guys, they stood up and they stayed and they said, how would this translate if maybe something goes wrong, right? And I have to go out and I have to support my client now and create like a fans first approach. And he said, well, that happened with our ticketing software a few months ago. And when it went down, they actually brought the ice cream truck out, the ticketing company, to the Savannah Bananas office. And I mean, you could tell people were like, oh, that's such a great idea. I'm going to write that down. Ice cream truck, sending that out to my client, if something bad ever happens. But anyways, I see what you're saying. I mean, you have to find impactful speakers and content that people can say, aha, and have that light bulb moment. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the other piece is also, real quick, and is also the celebration of successes. So we talk about these ideas, and a lot of it's focused on planning. They're very serious topics, running a business and making money and whatever. But again, we can't forget that we're all humans and we like to have some sort of enjoyment. And that's what I think about the Jesse Cole story. It's very serious about his journey, about what he put on the line, but it's also very lighthearted. It's very whimsical. And it turned out to be successful, but there's things we can do. And that was part of his message, right? So where do we find these bits of, celebration or just kind of jovial nature to it and kind of break some of the serious
monotony?
We're all under the gun. Everyone's under the pump every day. And so every now and then just break the ice and carry that forward to the next person you talk to.
Yeah, he was a really inspiring speaker. I get what you mean. Put moments of inspiration, and you can find it in other verticals. Maybe it's people outside of our industry too, right? That have great stories to tell like that.
For sure.
What were you going to say, Matt?
I'm just pointing out when I go to an event, right, as an MSP, I'm thinking, what is going to help my business? What am I going to get out of this that I can bring back, implement, and actually implement, right? I don't want to hear ideas that are so out there that it requires redeveloping the entire business plan to implement, but things that I can really take away and take back to my team. Because the vendors I can find anywhere. I do still like talking to them, but I can meet with vendors anywhere, anytime. What I can't get is the peer advice or all of the insights from conversations in the hallway or conversations at the after party or any of that stuff. And I just want to go back and find out, team, this is what we're going to do based on what I learned. Maybe we'll implement this, maybe we'll change this procedure and get something truly unique out of it, a new insight out of it, right? The utility content is what I'm really going there for.
Yeah, I think you have to enter, or you should enter, with a plan. It could be to be there to meet a senior leader of a vendor that you want to do business with, or that you're struggling with for whatever reason, right? That you start putting that down. Come with a list. A lot of times when I coach people in the past, I would turn and say, what do you want to get out of it? Where are you? And some of the tools that we have through the GPS desk and stuff we're doing are going to help you say, who am I and where am I and what should I be looking at? So sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So help me figure it out. But when you do, and then part of the traveler's journey and what we're going to kind of be releasing again is that manual, that guide to say, who should I be meeting? When I was there and I talked to these people, make sure I jot it down and I follow up with it. What are the aha moments? What are the takeaways? Both bullet points and just revelations that I want to ingest and digest on that flight home. What do I want to share at the Monday morning meeting when I get back? Right? Help you prepare for that. What are the things, and then put into a working plan in the journal that helps you do that, cultivate everything that you hear to kind of what matters to you, and then how to really move forward with the plan. Because it's all about, again, obviously everyone goes with a lot of inspiration and then you hit the inspiration cliff, right? You kind of leave. So it's about the continuity. The winner of the race goes to those who persevere. Many times, right? So you've got to have that staying power and you got to be with it. So yeah, I agree with you. You hear a lot of ideas. People get kind of whipped up over things. What are you really capturing? What are you going to follow up with? What are you committing to as a service desk manager, as an owner to your teams? Whoever you are, whatever role, you have a role responsibility while you're there, and there's something there you want to get out of it. The more clear you can be to the team, the more we can help you unlock that.
Which is where the peer groups can help out, because they can be your accountability buddies. Just saying. It's almost like this is a whole community that can help to support you and also make sure that you're staying accountable to your goals. I love it. Yeah,
it starts with the inspiration, right? You've got to have a fire lit. There's a reason there's a torch, right? It's kind of the symbol of lighting that fire and starting, and then you got to kind of innovate and work with it and craft it and mold it. You've got to seek out education. Am I doing it right? Swirl around it. What are the different sources, right? Then you put your plan together, and then you start thinking about, well, now I've got to get something that could be, and then you got to be held accountable. So accountability is one step of 8, right? Really. And then we talked about even like that, the celebration, the rejoicing, like where are we going to, move quick, figure out what we're doing right. Let's celebrate it. And where we're not, do course correct. Know when we're off course is equally important than to sustain for 2 or 3 years in the business and not make a change. That's tough because the years, as we all know, go by pretty darn quick.
So I have a random question for both
of
you.
Fire away.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So who would be your dream keynote if you could have anybody in the world? Let's say they still have to be alive. Who would be your inspirational keynote that you would bring in for an IT Nation event?
I was going with dead until you said dead or alive.
Okay.
No. I'm going to stay true to the questions because you kind of thought that. Give me a second. Think. Have to think of somebody.
Keynote.
Yeah, for me, who's highly. I mean, I'll be honest with you. From a thought process and maturity of my mind over the last 14 years, somebody even like, and we've had him before. Somebody like a Simon Sinek that was to sit down personally. That's been schooled in the human thought and process, nature, and psychology, along with leadership, along with a very real conversational style and cerebral sense to everything he does. He's just phenomenal. I mean, I can listen to him speak and I learn something every time he speaks. But I think that'd be he's one of them from a stable of people when I think about speakers and people that are motivational for me.
I like that one. That's a good one. What about you, Matt?
I'm gonna go with someone tech. So anyone watching who's an engineer will appreciate this one. Mark Russinovich, for sure. Right. So the CTO of Azure, the founder of sysinternals way back before Microsoft, and he's one of a unique personality that's able to blend technical and entertaining presentation. I used to watch his Case of the Unexplained videos back at the Microsoft conferences, and There was almost no one who can make education and problem solving that interesting. And so for me, the ability to capture an audience from a technical person is someone I inspire to be like in my own presentations. I would love to see him live do a keynote.
That's a good one. That's
All
a
right,
good one.
Vicky,
I don't
you're
know
up.
who that is. I feel like I have to go do some Googling now.
Vicky, you have to give somebody different that you've never said before because you've been asked this
Yeah,
question.
you have to answer too.
Okay, all right. I would go with Adam Grant, who is he's a writer. He's also a psychology professor. I can't remember what school, what business school he's with. It may be Wharton, maybe the Wharton School of Business. But yeah, he has a great book that I've been listening to on Audible called Hidden Potential, and it's all about tenacity and really kind of one of the things that I really appreciated about his book is that he talks about, you know, students that are acing all of their classes and always getting A grades may not be kind of the most successful people in business when they come out into the business world. I'm not saying that's true for everyone. But,
amen to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get behind that theory.
Yeah, me too.
My
Me
grades
too.
in uni, yeah. My grades in college. I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, it really is interesting because he talks about how you know, these people that can speak like 5 to 6 to 7 different languages, maybe they weren't the best at learning to pick up that second language for a while, and then it's like, again, you just keep at it, and then that tenacity builds, and then before you know it, it helps to unlock other parts in your brain, I guess, that allows you to accomplish more. Or maybe it's just the fear of failure goes away because you're just always driving forward. I don't know, but you got to check it out. It's a good book. The question is, what is one habit that you would I guess look to advise our listeners to either adopt or break when it comes to, I don't know. I guess let's keep with the theme of IT Nation, right? And the whole.
When it comes to their relationship with IT Nation, when they interact with IT Nation, what should they start doing or stop doing?
Yes.
What should they do in their action with IT Nation or themselves personally to concentrate on to reflect and get better?
I think it's dealer's choice, but I would frame it as in their role and their persona as the driver of their business. What should they start or stop doing? Not so much from a personal level.
Okay, so I would say that there's several things you can do, I guess, on different levels. You can talk about as a business owner or personally kind of habits. So let me just take it one at a time. I initially jumped to habits because I was going to share some of the things that I struggle with, right? Maybe that are maybe leaders and maybe can relate or can't relate. But the two that I work on, just me personally, on a regular basis is communication and calendaring. The two C's of, am I speaking as clearly and effectively? Am I getting the message across? Is it understood, comprehended, and then able to be actioned? Or am I creating fires and communicating half of a message and running off to something else? Right? Am I giving somebody the full time engagement that's needed? If you're a leader, in order for someone to have a fair shot of executing in a similar capacity that you would as an owner as you grow and scale your teams. And then your calendaring is to make sure you hold true where if you schedule something and it appears on your calendar and you put it in there, and that could be your personal life and things in general. I know it sounds very tacky. I got to schedule time off to spend time with my partner or whatever it is. But you literally have to preserve that and have some sort of selfish approach to that, or you will step on it and things will get moved and you'll constantly be chasing the calendar. So it's really owning the calendar and effective communication. And from a business side, I would say the things I see the businesses struggle with, and not to stop doing, but if you want to grow in scale, then you have to find the sales and marketing engine that's going to serve your business. You've got to be able to grow your leadership team for people that you can communicate and calendar with, and they can act in a similar capacity to carry out your will. They're never going to do it 100% the way that you do it. And you've got to get over that. So you can't think that everyone's going to execute in the exact same mind, nor should they. But it's done, again, we go back to the term of co-authoring. that has been so important versus the command and control. Give up the command and control and get back to, here's the objective we want to achieve. How do we go about doing? Agree on that, formalize that, put a plan in there, and then entrust somebody with checkpoints. Don't be on their shoulder. Don't be hovering them every day. Give people time and energy to help develop. If you think you've hired the right person, giving them time and energy to develop. So I think they overlap. I think personally, again, kind of summarize communication, calendaring at an individual level. But I think as you try to grow and build a sales team, for example, which you'll have to do in order to grow and scale and monetize, and also then as you grow your organization and sheer numbers, you have to develop a team that can execute on your behalf as if you weren't there. And then that's a big leap of faith that people need to take. And you better be very clear about how you expect that to happen. So giving up control, but also then communicating how you want things to run when you're not there.
Okay. Communication and
Fantastic
calendaring. I like it.
Those are my two big ones.
Yeah. Well, I just got my teeth cleaned during lunch today because I calendared it. I put it on my calendar and I said, I'm going. Nobody enjoys it, but you got to make sure that you make the time.
Yeah.
How many, I mean, and again, get older, I just find something, how many friends you write back and said, really like to catch up with that person, and it's been 2 years.
Oh,
and you didn't put it in the calendar, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
don't do it. So it really comes down to, if you really wanted to, say next Tuesday at 5, I'm going to make a commitment. Right? It's just like we get into the habit of like kind of not doing that and
pushing it. Saying I'll worry about that later. I'll do that later. Yeah, I like that.
Well, Gregg, thanks for coming on. I think we had a great overview and a great intro of where not only this podcast is going, of where IT Nation is going.
Yeah, well, I wish you all the best of luck, and everybody that comes after, I'm sure, will add the value that we're looking for. And yeah, I'm just excited for the journey you guys are going on. So thank you very much for investing the time.
Yeah, we're excited to be here. We're excited to bring on all of the amazing guests and see everybody at all of our IT Nation events coming up this year in 2024. So thank you so much for joining us today, Gregg. We really appreciate you and your time. And for all of our listeners out there, we appreciate you as well and hope that you keep dialing back in and subscribing to all of this amazing content.
Thanks all. Bye-bye. See ya.